on.
We're on. Say good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie. Thank you all very much for being here. I'm really pleased to present Cecilia Woloch because I met Cecilia Woloch about 2 months after I arrived in Paris in 1994.
I was 12.
I must have been 13.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. And it's a crazy story because it was a friend of my ex-husband's who wrote us and said, I fell in love with the poet and she's coming to Paris and she needs you. Basically,
Yeah.
right? And Cecilia called us up and said, yes, she's looking for a place to stay.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, by then I had found a place to stay. I'd find a lover. It doesn't take long when you're 30.
You were 12, you told me. At any rate, she came to dinner and then she invited me for a poetry reading. Now you have to understand, what did I know from poetry? I mean, nothing. It was not something that I had done much other than high school English poetry. And when I heard Cecilia read, it was like, whoa, what is this? This is something I'd never experienced before, and so we have been very good friends ever since.
Ever since? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she is a U.S.-born poet, writer, teacher, and performer based in Los Angeles. Her honors include fellowships from the Fulbright Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts, CEC, Arts Link International, and the Center for International Theater Development. She's published 7 collections of poems and a novel, Sigan. Wait, so you've got some of them up here.
Some of them, yeah.
Okay. Sigan, the Gypsy Poem, her second collection, has been the basis for multilingual, multidisciplinary performances across the U.S. and Europe. Her work has been published in translation in French, German, Polish, Hungarian, Ukrainian, Bulgarian, Hebrew, and
Romanes.
Romanes. Born in Pennsylvania, raised there and in rural Kentucky, she's traveled the world giving readings, leading workshops at universities and literary conferences, working with children and young people, educators, inmates at a prison for the criminally insane, and residents at a shelter for homeless women and their children. She's led an independent workshop for poets in Paris every summer for over 20 years, which I did the first one.
She started
the
it.
first one,
She
right?
started it. She said, you should do this. I'm like, how? She said, I'll help you. She was my training wheels for the first year. And we did it, yeah.
In the summer of 2025, she's also leading, which is now, a writer's salon in Nice, and traveled to Ukraine to lead a writing workshop for Ukrainian teachers of English. Do you have any openings at the Nice workshop?
Yes, I do. I have 2.
Okay, and when does it start?
It starts on the 19th to the 26th, June 19th to 26th.
So after you hear Cecilia read, you are going to want to come to Nice and sign up.
Or you can come to Lviv if you want to come to Ukraine.
Oh yeah, okay.
At the end of June, yeah.
I recommend Nice.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, on that note.
Thank you. Yes. She said safer than Los Angeles right now, so.
Probably. We will not go there. At any rate, Cecilia Woloch.
Thank you, Adrian Leeds. You know, it makes me think of what the poet Rilke, Rainer Maria Rilke, said. He has a poem called The Archaic Torso of Apollo. There is no place that will not find you. You must change your life.
You might have to project because we have the sound of the
Okay.
street with the windows.
Now, because they've been stepped on so many times, my glasses are crooked, but if I go like this, we'll look okay. In Paris with You by James Fenton. Don't talk to me of love, I've had an earful, and I get tearful when I've downed a drink or two. I'm one of your talking wounded, I'm a hostage, I'm marooned, but I'm in Paris with you. Yes, I'm angry at the way I've been bamboozled and resentful at the mess that I've been through. I admit I'm on the rebound and I don't care where are we bound. I'm in Paris with you. Do you mind if we do not go to the Louvre if we say sawed off to sodding Notre Dame, if we skip the Champs-Élysées and remain here in this sleazy old hotel room, doing this and that, to what and whom, learning who you are, learning what I am. Don't talk to me of love. Let's talk of Paris, the little bit of Paris in our view. There's that crack across the ceiling, and the hotel walls are peeling, and I'm in Paris with you. Don't talk to me of love. Let's talk of Paris. I'm in Paris with the slightest thing you do. I'm in Paris with your eyes, your mouth. I'm in Paris with all points south. Am I embarrassing you? I'm in Paris with you. So joyful, this poem. James Fenton was a British poet, and this is just my favorite. No, it's not mine. James Fenton. I thought I made it clear. James Fenton. So, you know, the Paris I first came to in the 1990s, it's sort of a long story, but I had come back to Paris for the second time in my life one summer, and I just had that thing happen to me that happens to people sometimes. I was like, I need to live here. I need to be here. What do I have to do to make that happen? And so I met someone at Jim Haynes' party that summer. I went back to LA. This person from Jim Haynes' party said, well, I want to be in LA. I don't have an apartment in LA anymore, but I'll fix you up with a friend of mine. He's got a big apartment and you can stay there. And I said, okay, you know. So I made all these plans around this person I'd never met. We'll call him Farouk, okay? So it was like 1994. I had enough money for a hotel for one night, and that was the little hotel. Antonia, is it still there next to the Shakespeare and Company? The Esmeralda.
Oh, yes.
It's still there? It's really a hole in the wall. It's not anymore? I mean, it was like, you just automatically wanted to be a hunchback when you went in. But I had enough money for that room for one night, and then I was calling this person Farouk, but meanwhile, another friend of mine had met a French couple when he was in Indonesia, and he said, well, call them up, Pierre and Isabel. So there's a little bit of that, but this is just to pick up on the sleazy old hotel room. This is from Sur la Route, which is basically a roman à clef. It's a novel that's really autobiography about that experience in Paris. 7. My room is a box at the turn of a stairway that seems to tilt in a narrow building in the shadow of Notre Dame, as if the whole thing might come tumbling down. My room is so crooked and small, the ceiling so low, that I almost can't stand up to undress. There's a tiny sink where I wash my face and one tiny, thin white towel. The toilet and shower are 2 flights down, dark and dank and windowless. The one window in my room opens over an alley of sooty brick. There's a black telephone next to the bed, which I use to leave a message for Farouk, and a message from Jack for Pierre. I study the other numbers on my list, as if looking for a clue. Then I lie down on the narrow bed. 8. After I've slept for a couple of hours, after I've showered and dressed again, I rush downstairs to the red velvet lobby, all faded elegance, smelling of must, to meet Mike, who's already waiting, perched on a rickety-looking settee. The thin man smoking behind the desk. Remember that? When people smoked everywhere? The thin man smoking behind the desk takes the key to my room from my hand, slots it into one of the cubby holes in the wall of cubby holes at his back. You must return by 1 a.m., he says. After that, the door will be locked. Okay. So it kind of begins there and goes on and has a very happy ending. So I have one. Pardon me?
But it hasn't ended.
It hasn't ended. Maybe now it's ended 30 years later. I don't know. But it hasn't ended. But it's another side of Paris, and I kind of miss that gritty, inexpensive, kind of wilder Paris. I mean, it's still there. Antonia is looking at me. People are saying, yes, yes, it is.
I'm still living in a room like that.
Oh, okay. She's proof. Paris has always attracted writers and romantics, and it's not just an inspiration. I mean, Paris can be kind of a nemesis. You know, it's actually kind of a character in writing, a presence. So this is a poem by Gregory Corso, who was kind of a notorious beat poet. I think he was friends with Allen Ginsberg and Jack Kerouac and all those guys. And this is his version of Paris. Paris, child city, April city, spirits of angels crouched in doorways, poets, worms in hair, beautiful Baudelaire, Artaud, Rimbaud, Apollinaire. Look to the night city, informers and concierges, Montparnassian woe, deathical Notre Dame. To the night circle look, dome heirloomed, Hugo and Zola together entombed, harlequin death trap. Seine generates ominous mud. Eiffel looks down, sees the apocalyptical ant crawl. New Yorkless city, city of Germans dead and gone, dollhouse of Mama War. Paris by Charles Bukowski. Never, even in calmer times, have I ever dreamed of bicycling through that city wearing a beret. And Camus always pissed me off. In a station of the metro by Ezra Pound. The apparition of these faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough. One of the most famous Imagist poems ever. So I came with all that in my little black suitcase. And what I found I loved about Paris, especially after I'd gone away for a week to Switzerland, and I came back and was like, thank God, it's filthy here. This was sometime, I think I was staying with Adrian this time.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think I have some.
The garbage strike?
No, I've been through garbage strikes, but I don't think I had the garbage strike here. But you know, Switzerland. Just to give you an example, this was a long time ago. You know, this is what 30 years ago, and I was with some friends driving out into the Swiss countryside, and we stopped at a little cafe in the middle of nowhere, and there was a bathroom, a toilet, you know, and I walked in, and suddenly there was this whoosh and woo, and everything was being sanitized around me. I mean, automatically. I was like, this is a little bit too much, you know. Everything was so clean. So I came back to Paris. Filth. I love the filth of Paris. I love Paris in its filth. Even stepping off at Passy into the elegant 16th, I can taste the soot in the air, a black curtain billowing after the train. And later, a woman offers me petit four, pretty petit four on a plate, and I love how she pulls her dainty chair away, lights a fat yellow gitan. How the gilded room fills with bitter smoke, and she flicks her ashes, crossing her legs. And I love the café Le Chien qui Fume on Boulevard du Montparnasse, how the light is yellow, worn, and the waiter's shirt has not been ironed. And La Petite Chaumière in the crooked damp marais, it was crooked and damp then, remember? In the crooked damp marais where we've come for fish, how we heap the bones on a plate, the oily heads, the thin gray skin, and how my friend insists on paying, but there is nothing romantic in this. On the street, I blow him kisses, step over dog shit, laugh out loud. And in the station at Hotel de Ville, there's a couple across the tracks. The man sitting down in an orange plastic chair, the dirty blonde facing him, straddling his lap. She is kissing his forehead again and again. He closes his eyes and lets her kiss. Her sweater slips out of the waist of her jeans, exposing the small of her back to us, a seam of pasty, naked flesh, the elastic band of her underpants. I get off the metro a few stops early to walk up the Champs-Élysées in the rain. A drunken man shouts from a telephone booth. Police sirens wail down the boulevard. And I swear, a woman is squatting to pee between parked cars just below the Étoile. She's wearing a mink coat, stockings and pumps, has a small cocker spaniel on a leash. I want to shout, "Bravo! Bon courage!" as she totters away just ahead of me. Paris is beautiful like this. It's the beauty of love, of the body of love. Once I arrived here in winter alone, smelled bread and tobacco and butter and piss, and what had, until then, been my heart was not so much broken as opened in sin. Thank you. Make a movie about that, Woody Allen. This is a poem for Adrian's address, which is a place I love, a place that's been the scene of many reconstructions. Also the scene of, scene of some wonderful things. So this poem is called, it's in a form that's called the pantoum. The last poem I read looks like prose. It's sneaky. It's a prose poem. Okay, it's not written in lines because it's not. Okay, because Baudelaire was the first person to write prose poems. Poems, yeah. He invented the prose poem. So it's a poem that looks like a block of prose. So it kind of can sneak up on you. You think, oh, I'm not reading poetry, but it is. This poem looks like a poem. It's a pantoum. The pantoum is a form that comes to us from Malaysian fishing songs. So I think it must have been like a call and response thing between the fishermen. So every line is repeated once. It's written in quatrains, 4-line stanzas. Lines 2 and 4 roll over and become lines 1 and 3 of the subsequent stanza. And it keeps on going like that until you get to the end, which is whenever you can't stand it anymore.
Different from the villanelle.
It's different from the villanelle. And then the lines 1 and 3 become lines 2 and 4 of the last. So every single, it's completely woven together. So this is called 43 Rue de Saint-Ange.
So now everybody knows my address.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, never mind. We know.
There was a book full of fallen leaves that had not been read. There was a chance. There was a chair near a window, a lamp. There was a sky of hammered tin with a few thin clouds in it, some birds. There was a chance. A noise in the courtyard like rain, and the clatter of keys. There was a sky of hammered tin with a few thin clouds in it, some birds, and several clocks at once, and everywhere bridges, a river like smoke. A noise in the courtyard like rain, and the clatter of keys. A stairway being climbed in both directions, curved and steep, and several clocks at once and everywhere, bridges, a river like smoke. There was a taxi moving slowly through the streets, the city blurred. A stairway being climbed in both directions, curved and steep. A door behind which jazz was playing softly. Candles burned. There was a taxi moving slowly through the streets, the city blurred. A rosary of longing being fingered, bead by bead. A door behind which jazz was playing softly. Candles burned, and little tongues of flame cast into mirrors and thrown back. A rosary of longing being fingered, bead by bead. Dusk, the curtains gathering their shadows, and a bed, and little tongues of flame cast into mirrors and thrown back. There was a chair near a window, a lamp. Dusk, the curtains gathering their shadows, and a bed. There was a book full of fallen leaves that still has not been read. You don't have to clap for every poem. Adrian mentioned the villanelle. It's another old form that actually originated as a dance in Italy. And it kind of has, it's sort of waltzy to me. It's written in 3-line stanzas, and lines 1 and 3 alternate as lines 3 in the stanzas. And there's a rhyme scheme too, which you may hear or you may not hear. But I wrote this poem for the handsomest waiter in the world. Back when we were allowed, are we still allowed to do that? Are we still
Allowed to do what?
flirt with waiters? Is that okay? Is it okay? Okay, all right, I don't know. Oh. Okay. Well, this was a waiter in Los Angeles. And so the genesis of this poem was like, I wrote this poem after I went to this place that I don't think it exists anymore. It was on La Brea Avenue in Los Angeles called the East India Grill. And I went there with my friend Bridget one night, and we went there specifically to flirt with the waiter. Food was good too, but, and I had given the poem to Adrian, and Adrian and I would sometimes exchange. I was staying in her apartment on the Rue de Saint-Ange, and she was staying in my place in LA. And I don't know, late at night, I don't know what the timing was, but she wrote to me and said, oh my God.
I had a group of people, we were all going to the East India Grill for dinner.
Uh-huh. And she spotted the waiter from my description.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't miss it.
Couldn't miss it. She was the last person to see that waiter. He disappeared after that. We have no idea what happened. So this is a villanelle. It's called the East India Grill Villanelle. This is the only thing it has to do with Paris, is that I'm just throwing it in there. East India Grill Villanelle. Across the table, Bridget sneaks a smile. She's caught me staring past her at the man who brings us curried dishes, hot and mild. His eyes are blue, intensely blue, hot sky. His hair dark gold, his skin like cinnamon. He speaks in quick, soft accents. Bridget smiles. We've come here in our summer skirts, heels high, to feast on fish and spices, garlic naan, bare-legged in the night air, hot and mild. And then to linger late by candlelight, in plain view of the waiter, where he stands and watches from the doorway, sneaks a smile. I'd dress in cool silks if I were his wife. We try to glimpse his hands, no wedding band. The weather in his eyes is hot and mild. He sends a dish of mango-flavored ice with 2 spoons, which is sweet. I throw a glance across the shady patio and smile. But this can't go on forever or all night. Or could it? Some eternal restaurant of longing not quite sated, hot and mild. And longing is delicious, Bridget sighs. The waiter bows. I offer him my hand. His eyes are Hindu blue, and when he smiles, I taste the way he'd kiss me, hot and mild. That was for you, Nancy. And these are, I'm going to read a couple of postcard poems that are prose poems. And then maybe a poem about protest and a goodbye poem. No, I'll read, I think I'll read Be Always Late. So Baudelaire has a famous poem you might know called, I can't remember how you say it in French, Be Always Drunk. Does anybody know that poem? Nobody? Khadijah knows it. Yeah, I have a few poets in the audience. Antonia, do you know that one? Be always drunk. Yeah, and he's like, just be drunk with something, with everything, with life, with trees. Okay, so and it's a prose poem. He invented the prose poem. So this is called Be Always Late. I have a T-shirt that says "Running late is my cardio." So it's true. It's true. So I'm always late, but now I know why. Yeah. Yeah. Be always late, and it should be written. If you're going to do this in the imperative, that's what Baudelaire did, and this is all true. I was on my way to give a reading at Shakespeare and Company, and this is what happened. Be always late. One should always be late. One should always be running, half running, in high-heeled boots through the streets with the church bells ringing the hour one should have already arrived, and be still en route, still a bridge away, still a sliver of silvery river to go. One should have clouds at one's shoulders like breath, panting clouds and a gasp of wind at the nape of the neck to keep one cool. The heart should be clicking against the ribs, I'm late, I'm late, I'm late. One should be turning just then past the church, past evening beginning in every cafe, past the poor little park with its late little flowers, disheveled little flames, because somewhere someone waits, because somewhere one has already arrived and will never rush past this again. Oneself with one's coat like a black sky flung, one's own shadow flaring out behind, and the sound of those bells in one's hair, in one's bones, now and ever, not never, late. This is one from the Metro. I love the Metro. And this is for the poet Lisa Passold. We were on the Metro together when this happened. Postcard to Lisa with Lisa from Metro Line 1. No one had seen him before he fell, but we saw the man fall to his knees in the aisle of the train, then face down as if in prayer, forehead pressed to the filthy floor. Someone gasped. Someone called out, "Monsieur, monsieur." Someone tried to lift him up, but he lurched and fell back the other way, backwards, hitting the back of his head. That's when we saw the gash in his scalp. Was it a fresh wound or an old scar? There was no blood. He did not seem drunk. A neatly dressed, dark-skinned man, though the cuffs of his trousers were frayed. Someone tumbled him into a seat, and he sat there and would not or could not speak. I reached over and pulled the alarm. The doors slid open, but no one came. I leapt from the car and ran down the quay and rapped at the glass conductor's cage. The conductor was standing inside, in darkness, watching the scene on a little screen. I could not think of what to say in French. Un homme, il est tombé. And then the conductor was standing over the dazed man, naming the stations of the metro, asking where the man wanted to go. But the man wouldn't talk. His eyes stayed closed. A clochard stepped into the car, drunk and smelling of vomit and piss. He started yelling, trying to help. The other passengers cleared a path. Some had just sat there all along. A young girl clipping her fingernails furiously, clippings falling into her lap. The dazed man was taken out onto the quay, still not speaking. The train pulled away. The clochard had stayed on board. Now he was filling the car with his stench. Someone leaned over my seat and whispered in English. This doesn't happen here that much. So, I was here in, if you've been on the Place de la République when there's a protest, when there's a manifestation, you know what that's like. So I think it was when the US invaded Iraq. What year was that? 2003? Thank you. Okay. So, so I was here in 2003 with a group of poets, and we joined, I don't know if it was a protest or a vigil in the Place de la République. And this poem is called, and it comes from I didn't write down, I think it's, I don't know if it was Apollinaire who said, in such dark times we all need to shine. So, we all need to shine. In dark times, we all need to shine. So there's an imperative for you. Shine. In such dark times, we all need to shine, each to each with what light we have, as dusk like a smoky curtain falls from east to west across the world, and the world grows dim with news of war, and the headlines blacken our fingertips, and the wicks of candles burnt to char. Among these monuments and shadows, friends, let us suffer our radiance. In this city in which I once loved my beloved, in hunger, the brasseries shine, and the neon of Saint Michel casts a glow like dawn on the ancient walls, and the wine in our glasses, ruby and bright, and the teeth of the waiter when he smiles, and our voices like coins in our throats, and our laughter, silver as ever, and all our tears, useless and beautiful, shine. And the Seine gleams darkly past, dragging its net of drowning stars, and the half-moon, tarnished gold, slides through the ragged map of clouds, and somewhere the sky being torn into sheets of flame and shrieking shines. And the paving stones shine beneath the clatter of our heels in the courtyard's hush, and the window of one room, blue, glows in the loneliness of its night, and the flickering light of the TV screen buzzes and shines with its shining lies, and our reflections thrown back from the glass, our ghosts in the gilt-framed mirrors shine, and our prayers, which are nothing, shine, and the bones of the dead in the earth's black loam, and the flowers on graves with their dumb, sweet tongues, and my wedding band, small and gold, still whole, and the whole bloody planet glimpsed through the eye of what God may yet squint through the stars at us, shines. I'm stepping all over poems. I saw a famous soprano once singing on stage, and she had been stitched into her gown, and she had her songs, and she was trying to be neat, and then she just started flinging them on the floor as she sang. And I thought that would be nice to be that dramatic. This is your 2-poem warning. I'm going to read you 2 more poems, and then I'm going to ask you to tell me something. And this is a blazon. The blazon was, I think it was invented by the French troubadours. And it's a love poem in which you kind of make a list. You know, the oldest form of human writing is the list, the catalog. The Magna Carta is a list, right? The oldest form of poetry is a list. Genesis is a list, okay? So a blazon is kind of a list in which you praise all the different parts of your beloved, okay? And André Breton, the French surrealist poet, wrote, to my mind, the greatest blazon ever. It's called Union Libre, Free Union, and it begins, my woman with her forest fire hair, with her heat lightning thoughts. I can't remember the rest. There's a line, my woman with her shoulders of champagne. You know, yeah, it's really, so what he's doing is juxtaposing, you know, putting things together that don't normally go together, and it creates this spark and makes something new So I took that as a challenge, and I was in Paris with someone I loved, and so this is Blazon after Breton. My love with his hair of nightingales, with his chest of pigeon flutter, of gray doves preening themselves at dawn, with his shoulders of tender balconies, half in shadow, half in sun. My love with his long-boned thighs, the map of Paris of my tongue, with his ink-stained tongue, his tongue the tip of a steeple plunged into milky sky. My love with his wishing teeth, with his fingers of nervous whispering, his fingers of a boy whose toys were cheap and broken easily. My love with his silent thumbs, with his nape of an empty raincoat hung by the collar, bowed, with his eyes of a window smudged of a train that passes in the night. My love with his tattered shadow, the silken underside of dusk, with his laughter of an empty stairwell, rain all afternoon. My love with his trombone heart, his shining heart, with his arms of smoke, his mouth the deepest flower to which I have ever put my mouth. Okay. This last poem is for my friend Elizabeth, who should be here with me this year, but Elizabeth Iannacci. Yeah. Began some years ago. It's called, and this is based on a poem by, who's the old poet, Praxilla of Sicyon. Know anything about her? I don't. I just know she wrote this. She wrote a poem that began with "Loveliest of what I leave behind." Okay, it's a great idea for a poem, isn't it? Because we're always chasing what's lost, what's going, what's gone. I come back to Paris. It's like, where are the cordonniers? Where are the concierges? Are there concierges anymore?
You mean the Guardian of the buildings?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do exist.
They do exist?
Not
Okay.
as many as there were
Yeah.
before.
And all the, below Rue de Saint-Ange, there was that cordonnier that I loved. And because every time I walked by, he'd be in the back of his shop, the door was open, he'd, ma fille, and I loved that, I think
That's when Rue de Bretagne was scruffy.
Yeah, Rue de Bretagne was real scruffy. Yeah. Au revoir, Paris. Loveliest of what we leave behind are the waiters, flirtatious and quick, sliding in slick-soled shoes from table to tiny table, winking and clinking the silver and singing us sweet, sweet mademoiselles. And loveliest after those, the mademoiselles with their sleep-strewn hair, with their careless scarves at their delicate throats, with their serious books on their laps as the metro glides towards Saint-Michel. And also les vieux hommes who grunt and sigh as we pardon past, and the old mesdames with their little dogs trotting along beside their ankles of terrible woe, but no regret. And lovely the dog shit we dodge on the sidewalks, piles of it, gleaming and green with flies. And lovely still the late gold light, and the mauve-breasted pigeons, plump with crumbs, and the blush of cassis in the wine, and the flicked cigarettes, and the jangling coins, and the murmur of language we half understand. And lovely how evening falls like silk along the river, au revoir, and how we've been loveliest always here, and how we've missed nothing, and how we'll be missed. So all those things, Annie Dillard, the writer Annie Dillard said, that she just felt like writing was just her way of responding to loss, that I have to record it all. She remembered how even as a young woman, she'd watch the light move across the floor of the porch and think, if I don't capture this, it will have been lost. It will be for nothing. So, it's kind of a cliche to love Paris, right? It's kind of a cliche to love Paris in a romantic, idealized way. And writers are desperate to avoid cliches because cliches are boring. They're things that have been said over and over. They've been repeated so often that they've become stale, even meaningless. They no longer catch us by surprise. They no longer make us sit up and pay attention. They no longer grab us by the throat. They're no longer exciting or dangerous. Anne Carson said, "I would do anything to avoid boredom. It's the task of a lifetime." Okay. So writing things down is a way of saving them so they won't be lost. It's also a way of living twice. And the truth is, every great love affair is exciting and dangerous, right? Okay? And I think every love affair with Paris is unique. So how to capture the truth of your own love affair with Paris? And the truth is that Paris in literature is a character in its own right, not a pretty backdrop, but an active presence. So, a way to begin would be to choose one thing about Paris that you alone love. Okay? Something that no one else might consider lovable, like filth. Something that no one else might consider picturesque, like the poubelle, like the pigeons, like the cordonniers who are mostly gone, like the tiny little chairs at outside tables. Are they still tiny? Yeah, okay. Maybe a particular street market, or metro station, or the metro system, the whole thing, or the buskers. I love the buskers, or the toilets. Okay. Now I remember when the toilets, les toilettes. Les toilettes. Remember at the Chemin, what's the horseshoe bar in the Marais? Yeah, and that was like I had the like shock of a lifetime. They had what was called a Turkish toilet.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. What a shame. You knew you were in Paris when you went into a restaurant and there was a Turkish toilet.
It used to be more than not. More often than
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe it's the traffic, the street sweepers. Where do they have street sweepers the way they do in Paris? You know?
You mean with their plastic
Broom.
green?
Yeah. You don't love those?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like, who uses that? How do they work?
you don't lose that. Maybe it's the sirens. Maybe it's the smell of cheese that you love. Who has a piece of paper? Adrian, do you have paper for people?
Oh, no.
We think about that. Who has paper?
We have yours.
Yeah. Or, oh yeah, you want some of my, you can have like the back of a poem. Okay, so I'm going to like make you do this. Okay, you don't have to do it, but I'd like you to try it. If you want, I'll give you a piece of paper that's like the back of a poem.
We could split them in half.
Yeah, or some people like to write on their phone. Is there anybody who likes to write on their phone? Nobody likes to do that. Okay, nobody likes to do that. Okay, you think we should split them in half?
Yeah, half and half.
Okay.
Here, I can.
Okay. Fold them down the middle and split them in half.
Give me two.
And then you'll get half a poem too.
Half or quarters.
No half.
We would have brought paper if you told us.
Well, I thought I told you, but I didn't think about it. I don't think it. People go around without a notebook in your bag? Really?
I do.
I took mine out. I guess.
Here you go, Cecilia.
Oh man, look, I already messed up. Here, you do those. Are you going to write on your phone, Nancy? Okay, Nancy's going to write on her phone. Okay, I got these.
You have an actual, should we just split it?
No. I want you to fill up a half. So.
Okay.
Oops.
You have pens?
Go around without paper and pens?
Well, you know, I have change bags.
Make sure he has a piece across from you. Oh, Maria, hi. wants a piece of paper that doesn't have one? Who wants a piece of paper that doesn't have one? Okay. You're good? Natalie. Here, pass these around to anybody who doesn't have one who wants one. Well, I have more paper. Is there anybody else who doesn't have paper who wants a little bit? Here, there's two. Okay, here's the deal. You're not going to have time to censor yourself. And that's the trick. Nancy's looking at me like this, whoops. Nancy, uncensored, okay? You know, all writers have this experience of you have the inner critic that sits over your shoulder, your left shoulder, your right shoulder. And it's like, you can't write that, that's stupid. You can't write that, that's embarrassing. You can't write that. You have to, sometimes what you have to do is you have to write really quickly to outrun that voice. You can listen to it later if you want, but you can't listen to it when you're first trying to get something down, or you'll never get something down, right? Okay, so first order of business, secretly, write down something that you really love about Paris that no one else loves, or that you're not supposed to love, okay? Now you can choose one thing and write a kind of an ode to that thing. Ode is a kind of fancy word for a poem that's like a song when you're singing the praises of something. Pablo Neruda wrote a book of odes he called Odes Alimentales, odes to simple things. He wrote an ode to his socks, an ode to a fish in the market, an ode to a watermelon. But maybe it's filth you love, and maybe you want to write an ode to filth. Maybe it's handsome waiters or snotty people in the bakery who won't give you what you want because you pointed. Yeah, because you point, you can't point. You have to do it with your eyes. You don't know that? Yeah. Yeah, it's rude to point. But how do you, if you want something that you don't know the name of, you just have to use your eyes. Okay, maybe it's tiny chairs, maybe it's traffic, maybe it's the noise of the sirens, maybe it's a certain metro stop. Maybe you are the only person on earth who loves the metro at Châtelet. Maybe you are the only person on earth who loves the metro at Châtelet. The street sweepers, the sirens. Just be as specific as you can, okay? Choose this one thing. Or choose to write about all of the horrible things in Paris that you love, okay? And just make a list, okay? And use all 5 of your senses. So not only what you see, hear, smell, can touch, can taste, all 5 senses, and pile on the sensory details. Like I said, it can take the form of an ode, sort of song-like poem of praise, lifting up something that's humble or ordinary or despised. Don't try to rhyme. Rhyming is not really organic to English language poetry. It can be done, but it can really easily be done badly. So don't do it, okay? You can create rhythm just by the way the words sound when you put them together, just by listening as you write. Sometimes, maybe the sound of the words is going to kind of carry you away. Good, get carried away. If you get stuck, repeat. Repetition is a form of rhyme. Maybe you want to repeat, I love the tiny chairs of Paris cafes. I love when I fall off of them in the street and everyone laughs. I love when I land in a pile of dog poop. I love the metro at Châtelet. So make a list of all different things, or stay with one thing and repeat and use the details of that one thing. Let the Let the rhythm emerge. Make use of repetition, sound, and rather than write towards something you think you want to say, write until you don't know what you're writing about. Phil Levine said, inspiration is that state in which you are so much yourself that you don't know who you are. So surprise yourself. Stumble onto something you had no idea you were going to write. And don't worry if it makes sense. And I'm going to give you 13 minutes. 13 minutes. That's a lot. Yeah, what? I like that too. Oh, good. Great.
13 minutes is too much.
Oh, just keep going.
Write a novel in 13 minutes.
Wouldn't that be great? Okay, you have 7 more minutes. Good to see you. Huh?
I just made it.
Does anyone want another scrap of paper? Oh, good. Thank you.
I might take one now.
I'll take one. Here,
I'm done.
let me see. I'm done. I'm not doing anyway.
I'm done. Can you read it? It's my handwriting.
I love going by the same cafe every day,
It's
like a religion. That,
that when missing out is heresy.
oh, okay,
Heresy,
heresy.
yeah, no, sorry.
Okay.
The waiter knows me more than I know myself.
Oh.
He knows what I want to order. I order what he thinks I will. I'm not anonymous there. I know everyone and everyone knows me. It's home. It's home away from home. The menu is my mantra. The mantra is my menu. This can only happen in Paris. Where
The cafe is life itself. Great, great, great. You better put your name on it.
Here, you can have it. I'll let you read it. You'll read it better than me.
If I can get there. Are you finished?
read it.
So you know, we have no one on camera at the moment. Right. So that's what.
What's this
yes,
say?
but we have, I have
Early.
Okay. Early.
Remember,
Light.
we're being recorded.
Okay. Okay.
Cecilia.
Okay.
Wash
Oh, so
away
you got my
the
butt.
We're being recorded. Yeah, we exactly. Everyone's
It's
working.
funny, we don't get a lot of
Everyone's-
practice
this is an
writing
opportunity.
anymore. Used to be able to
Yeah.
write better.
Oh, wait, I have another piece of paper if anybody needs it.
Suddenly we found a.
Corner.
Okay.
Antonia's putting it in her bag.
This was 40 years ago.
Yeah. Wrapping new views.
New views. Over minutes.
I would end right here
Where?
in Paris for a month. Or end with something really specific. So resist the impulse to go, ta-da! We all have that impulse when we reach the end of something, go, ta-da! Here's what it all means, ta-da! Just end it with, think about haiku. How, when you get to the end of a haiku, I always feel like, you know, Wile E. Coyote, remember Wile E. Coyote? And he'd go like running off a cliff, and he was standing in midair, and then suddenly he realized he was standing in midair. And so that, to me, that's what a haiku feels like at the end. Now listen, you watermelons. If any thieves come, turn into frogs. It's Isa. It's a 500-year-old haiku. Yeah. I'm trying to think what other ones I know by heart. I know others by heart. But end with a specific detail, with a surprise. Even if it makes no sense. Even better if it makes no sense.
That's what makes it more fun.
I used to get paid to write, to get kindergarten kids to write poems. This was like the greatest scam ever. Kids in kindergarten, they are poems, you know? And yes. And they wrote a poem. I had them writing a poem where you had each word had to surprise the one before it. Like each word had to be a surprise. So they wrote this collaborative poem. Be happy. A fish walks dancing 3 steps backwards, Grandma. Why is it great? Well, for 30 years I went, why is it great? But it is. Be happy. A fish walks dancing 3 steps backwards, Grandma. You know? It's just, yeah, so like that. Make your ending like that.
This is a sample of your workshop.
This is a sample of my workshop. It's not always like this. Sometimes I'm really tough.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm really tough. But kindergarten is, I used to, when I was doing poetry with kids in kindergarten, I couldn't believe I was getting paid for that. It was like, you know,
Was it fun?
it was so much fun. I was trying to teach them about metaphor and juxtaposition. I remember this little boy stood in front of me and he said, I saw a man, he had banana feet. I've never forgotten that. Banana feet, you know.
It's a great image. I wonder what they were really like.
Or the little girl who wrote, I am a saucer in the cabinet of love.
Oh my God! Wow, that's just that's a 5-year-old.
Oh, I think she was 7, yeah.
Oh well.
I said, me too. Me too, I'm a saucer in the cabinet of love. So. Let's see what you
Change
do.
the last one.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you compare it to? Do you like it like that?
What?
Notre Dame.
Now?
Yeah. It's spiffy? You like it spiffy?
It's more like it was originally.
I guess, if you, in 1200, yeah,
Before the stone turned dark.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Before it became creepy.
yeah. I kind of liked it creepy. I was there with a French friend yesterday who remembered being there as a little kid, and she said, oh, when I was little and my parents brought me here, it frightened me. She said, I really loved it. She said, now the mystery is kind of gone. And she said, oh, it'll come back. Just give it about 500 or 600 years, you know.
Burn lots of candles.
Yeah, burn lots of candles. They even do that. So has anybody surprised themselves? Anybody written something they didn't want? You want to hear what Adrian wrote? Okay.
I'm in trouble.
Just starts with a, maybe it's self-titled, I love. I love going to the same cafe every day. It's like a religion that missing out is heresy. The waiter knows me better than I know myself. He knows what I want to order. I order what he thinks I will order. I'm not anonymous here. I know everyone, and everyone knows me. It's home. It's home away from home. The menu is my mantra, and the mantra is the menu. This can only happen in Paris, where the cafe is life itself. Yeah. Anyone else? Anyone else? What'd you do? Yeah.
Well, I just wrote many things that I'm not.
Do you want to read them, or you want me to read them?
Oh, you won't be able to read it, but you can try it.
Excuses.
No.
Did you write on your phone? Do you want to read it? Or you want me to read it?
But they're not mic'd up.
Oh, you're not mic'd up. Okay. All right. Where am I? You reveal the answer instantly, not with words, but with a mysterious symbol. Is the material from which you are made really bending, indented, swirling perfectly to create an impression? Bouchon, not. You aren't real, but you are everywhere. I've never seen you anywhere else. The little knot, 2 strokes of paint, not real, but showing how the material should be bent by the screws, holding the sign, 4th arrondissement, Rue de Paris. Nice. What's your name? Jay. Jay? Nice to meet you, Jay. Nancy, what'd you do? What'd you do? Can I see it? Yeah, I can see it. Can I read it? Huh. Twilight. Police on horseback. Seine. Dark of the water. Champagne. Cafes. Who will you meet? What will you learn? The old buildings. Darkness. Soot. L'histoire. Who walked? What happened here before? Who walked these steps before? What happened here before? Happiness. What fell them? Danger, mystery, what lurks below? Scary, murky, breathing, quelled, struggle, panic, n'est pas panique. Boat churning by, rescue, ladder, musty darkness, strength, stronger, twilight, mystery, what lurks below, behind, a thrill, a plan, stay out, get out, preserve, run, walk away, don't dwell, live, move. Its time will come, not long, far away, far off, the option, la décision, move on, more to see, more to live, not your chapter, nor page, more on, what's that last word say? I didn't write this.
Move on.
Move on. Okay, move on. Terrific. Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Somebody else. Yeah, I wanted to see what people did, but people are being shy. Who feels not shy? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Stand up and read a haiku.
Okay.
Yeah. You're tall. Stand up. Everybody.
You have to do it loud, Craig, because
Project.
you're not projecting.
Love half-floor toilets, hanging chain on water tank. Welcome, soggy shoes.
Read it again. Read it again. See, that's perfect. That's exactly. Is that not Wile E. Coyote falling over after he's gotten out over the air?
Love half-floor toilets, hanging chain on water tank. Welcome, soggy shoes.
Welcome, soggy shoes. That's great. That's great. Craig, you're Stephen, what'd you do?
All right, it's about Polish conspirators. So, who lived in a hotel called Lambert. Sorry, I have a cold.
Here in Paris.
Yes, 19th century. So another time, plump nobles clicked their heels, glued oaths together, feathers in caps, ancient Sarmatian rituals, pools of serfs, paths without pencils, unmapped, detailed records. They dragged us to Paris, exile and flight, with roux and wine, lemonade, projections, building that hotel with conspiracy, no consequences. Their hotel was not a hotel, their pipes were not pipes, their maps were not maps, their countries were not countries. Streets disappeared, rulers killed them, children left toys, smells stayed home, all treasures to be found, in castles no longer, in Paris, where it all came alive.
Wow. Wow. So what, Stephen is a historian and a professor of Slavic languages and histories and maps. So this is based on true stuff that happened here in Paris?
It's always sort of true.
Always. I like that. That's about, we can say this about poetry, but we can say it about history. It's always sort of true. It's always sort of true. Natalie, did you write anything hiding back there?
I did, but
Oh, come
I don't know
on.
how to write.
Oh, come on. You're an actress.
I do
You're
that thing that we sometimes do in acting, where we just when we're discovering a character,
uh-huh.
and we just write endlessly without editing
Yep.
to
That's
see what might come up.
exactly.
Character.
Exactly.
So maybe that's kind of what I did.
Good.
The ability to disappear to the world while being swaddled and protected in endless beauty.
Hmm.
The beauty of a rose trémier squeezing out of a crack in the sidewalk. Jasmine flowering inexplicably along a wall in the sidewalk. The sudden appearance of an old faded facade of a business long gone.
Hmm.
The patina of neglected painted wood. The many colors and accents filling Boulevard de Belleville.
Hmm.
The smile of a total stranger, usually an immigrant, a transplant like myself.
Yeah.
Walking endlessly, safe, solo, alone. Disappearing in the many accents and the snobs of Paris, the tourist being incognito. Finding the enthusiasm of finding that same feeling of disappearing while coming alive and feeling fuller and more alive than ever. To fade into the beauty and become myself.
Mm.
To return after decades and decades of floating and bouncing. To re-find the true beauty that seeps into my very being.
Yeah.
Paris.
I know that feeling.
Thank you, Paris.
Do you know that feeling? Yeah.
Really?
To be incognito, to feel yourself disappearing and kind of being reborn at the same
Exactly,
time.
It's amazing.
Same time. That's how I got addicted to travel.
Yeah. I mean,
You
how
know?
can I be me and I'm surrounded by strangers
Yeah.
who know
I'm
nothing about me, but I feel more me?
yeah.
What is that?
And I feel more, it's like I described it to my friend Sarah one time, like the tiniest drop in the biggest bucket, you know?
It feels good.
It feels good. And I don't know if we always feel like that at home, that we don't feel like that at home, or if it's like at home in the United States, we don't feel that way because we live so differently. I'm not sure what it's about, but I discovered that feeling on coming to Paris, on feeling like I'm anonymous, I'm disappearing, and at the same time, I'm becoming who I always meant to become.
Isn't that
I'm becoming who I always meant to become. And I think that's something has something to do with the Rilke quote that I started with. There is no place that will not find you. You must change your life. And I think a real traveler, not a tourist, but a real traveler, you allow yourself to be changed. And that can be exciting and dangerous and scary, but you allow yourself to be changed, to become that other self, you know. And there's another great quote about maps that I can't recall it well enough to quote it without stumbling, so I won't. But that, you know, that it's an inner map that we follow. It's an inner map that we follow, and we don't know where it will take us. And you know, the place I think Karen Desai said the place that feels most like home to you is the place where you can most become yourself, and it may not be on any map. It may not be on any map. My friend Stephen is also a map maker and has written a wonderful book about map makers called Map Men. So, is there anyone else who would like to share before we call it a day? Don't be shy. Yay! Yay!
Would you read that?
I can, yeah, especially since you typed it and I don't have to decipher. Tell me your name.
Brenda.
Brenda, okay. So this is Brenda's. I actually love doing this. See, Natalie, I was good at cold reading.
Yes.
J'adore, it's called Tartine de Pomme. J'adore the little birds that steal my crumbs. They watch me eat, and when I slow, they gingerly approach. They move away and flutter a bit and descend again. I have one bite left of my Normandy pie. Then one tiny brave soldier moves like stealth and picks at the portion with his beak. He tastes it and flutters away, only to circle back and try again. And I'm delighted. Two little beaked friends join him, and my solitary breakfast becomes a table for four. It's wonderful, Brenda. Wonderful. I love that you start with the French also. I love that you mix those two together. Wonderful. Anybody else? Yeah. Okay, she's being brave. Tell me your name.
Beverly.
Beverly. Okay, Beverly. I miss those ladies too. You know, in what did we call them in Eastern Europe? We had a name for the women in the toilets who they could be really tough, who collected the coins. The lady who collected coins in the restrooms. There she sat in the dark. All I saw was her meek smile, the smell of urine impermeating my nose. There she sat in the dark, waiting for the coins from the desperate, racing to the toilets in the dark, cool, musty underground. There she sat in the dark, no shame, just a job, feeding her family. That's great. That's great. I love that you created this little form, you know. There she sat in the dark. Waiting for the coins, no shame, just a job, feeding her family. Great, terrific. What kinds of...
You got a good group here.
The title is The Customer is Always Wrong in Paris.
Okay, let me see if I... I love is it Thick Skins of Paris shop windows?
Shop workers.
Oh, okay. The customer is always wrong in Paris. I love the thick skins of Paris shop workers, their smug ways, their smug, uncollaborative ways. I'm from New York, where our skins are thin. I bought too many books, and as Gilbert Joseph, I returned one the next day. Really? I tried to return another one the next day. The clerk was uncollaborative. He said, "You cannot return books indefinitely." I thought, in New York you can. As I left the store with my unreturned book, I felt angry but shaken. I've never read the book I tried to return. It still bothers me to this day. If only I could be a thick-skinned Parisian, but alas, I'm from New York, where our skins are thin. I love it. Only a Paris shop worker would say, "You cannot return books indefinitely." How do they come up with this stuff? You know? That's great. You cannot return books once I tried to return something in a Paris shop. Never again. Never again. Okay. I'm eager to hear a couple more. Is there anybody who's being unnecessarily shy? Khadijah, would you like to read? She's pointing at, who are you pointing at? The lady in yellow? Lady in yellow.
I know. I saw you looking at yours, so I thought you might want to share.
Me?
I'm like, yeah,
Me? I'm innocent.
To the wire. All right.
At least it's not my bra strap.
I bow to you, the netting over my building courtyard, sagging between my windows and the rooftops beyond. I try to forget your black squares that cover the sky like fishnet stockings.
Great.
Yes, you keep the pigeons and their droppings away, but you also force me to look beyond, to pretend you aren't there, but are always present. You keep me from gushing romance, from thinking of this city like a gilded toy.
Huh.
Paris is like that, the beauty sometimes obscured by the dirt of human need. Sometimes I have to look beyond the squares to see the clouds scudding the sky, the gold light of the sunset. Last night, a bird came to rest on you, knitting, clinging with his tiny claws, swaying back and forth. He opened his beak and sang and sang.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. Thank you, Khadijah. Khadijah Queen is a friend of mine, once of LA, a renowned poet and writer, and she has a new memoir coming out. Yes? Remind me of the title.
Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea.
Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. She was in the Navy, and she wrote about it. Okay?
And also the history of women at sea.
It's a history of women at sea. So check it out. It'll be out August 5th. Okay? So and she's also a teacher. So she was on to something when she kept pointing to the woman in the yellow shirt. That's beautiful. No, that's. It's beautiful. What's your name? Lisa. Really beautiful. I love the netting and that you have to sometimes look past the squares to see. Really terrific, and I love the way it ends with that bird that comes and clings. Do you consider yourself a poet, a writer?
I am a poet.
Okay. And what's your last name?
Lisa Rizzo.
Lisa Rizzo.
No, nobody. Nobody you know.
Maybe not, but.
I just thought of if I were to do this again, I would title Ce n'est pas possible.
Why?
It occurred, well, it's such a French thing. You're never, on dit jamais, oh yeah, you know, that enthusiasm.
Yeah.
It's always no at first.
Yeah.
Moi, je pense pas, c'est pas possible.
Yeah.
I know a lot of you
have to
probably
say
relate.
it the right way.
No.
No.
But it's always no. It's always, peut-être, maybe, not sure. Sorry.
Well-
That would be my French.
Well, then you've given yourself your next exercise,
Yeah.
Natalie. You've given yourself your next exercise.
Thank you for inspiring that.
Sure. Would you like to read what you wrote? Yes? Yes. You want to read, or you want me to read it?
I'd love to read. I don't know
Okay.
if I heard you say something.
Okay.
Um,
Maria's always saying something. So this is Maria Capone, who's a poet from the
I'm
United
not a
States.
poet, but sort of non-fiction writer. Ode to Park Lasnas. Who would have thought the grounds of a horse meat slaughterhouse would be transformed into an urban park? No meat smells anymore, just the pervasive scent of spring roses. Two geese and a gooseling with their beaks in the grass. The sound of merry-go-round bells signaling a stop. The sunshine streaming through the leafy trees. The old men sitting on benches reading their papers. The old ladies on other benches with paperback books. The girls in bikinis on the grass studying their self-help. The feel of a soccer ball rolling against my leg. Pardon, madame, a t-shirt. shirted young boy calls out. The tack-a-tack of the ping-pong balls on the cement tables. The huffing and puffing of the joggers, young and old. The stone donkey cart sculpture planted with flowers. The head of the poet-musician surveying it all. What song would you sing these days, dear George?
Oh,
Says.
beautiful. I love that. It's so, this is like a short film. It was like a short film. It's really cinematic, you know. And what, and you said you're a nonfiction writer?
Yeah.
And what's your name?
Hillary Kaiser.
Hillary Kaiser. Nice to meet you. We had
Hillary's an author.
Okay.
She's spoken here before.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'll have to come. So what's your latest book? What's the title?
Well, at the moment I'm writing plays.
Okay. Oh, well. Oh, well. Oh, well. We've got just a couple minutes. I'm going to read one last poem before I go, but if there's anybody else who would like to read. No, she's really sure not. No? Going?
Okay, do your thing.
Un, deux, trois, chocolat. Antonia will read. Okay.
Can I share a short poem for you and others who are leaving Paris? No.
So not what you wrote today. You don't want to. No, you can share. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So I'm going to read one last poem, and it's the only thing it has to do with Paris is that it's a poem for America. It's a prayer for America.
Is it a new one?
It's a new one. This was published on the.
We need some prayers.
It was published on the Academy of American Poets website this past year, so it's been published. But it was written on the back porch of my friend Eve's house that faces the Chattahoochee River in Atlanta. Prayer for 2018, but it could be prayer for 2025. Surely there was a river once, but there is no river here. Only a sound of drowning in the dark between the trees, the sound of wet, and only that. Surely there was a country that I called my country once, before the thief who would be king made other countries of us all, before the bright screens everywhere in which another country lives. But what is it anyway to live, to breathe, to love, to eat? Surely there was a real earth, wild and green here, blossoming, land of windswept plains and blood, then of shackles and of iron, and then the black smoke of its cities and the laying down of laws under which some flourished, if you call that flourishing, and from which others would have fled had there been anywhere to run. My country, which is cruel and which is beautiful and lost. Surely there were notes that made a song, a pledge of birds, and not a child in any cage, no man or woman in a ditch. Surely what we meant was to anoint some other God, one made of wind and starlight, pulsing, heart that matched the human heart. Surely that God watches us now, one eye in the river, one eye where the river was. Thank you. Sure, I'm happy to do a Q&A. I just want to say thank you for your attention. Attention is really one of the greatest gifts we can give to one another, especially now. It's really important, and I'm trying to remember this every day. Like, how do we oppose the colonization of our imaginations and our intellects by, cyberspace and technology? And how we do that is by paying attention to one another, talking to the people around us, looking them in the eye. So it's a gift, and I don't take it for granted, so I thank you for your attention. And I am happy to sell these few books I have so I don't have to take them in my suitcase. And I'm happy to take a question or two. We have about 10 or 15 minutes left. Does anybody have a question? Can be about anything. I'll tell you anything. Yes?
What will you do in Ukraine?
I'm going to teach. I've been working with teachers of English in Ukraine, and they are just, they found me because of my association with Fulbright, and they really felt like they needed desperately to do something creative. And I said, well, in my experience, poetry can be a great tool for language learners because you can use language in unusual ways, you know, in poetry. So I did some poetry workshops with them on Zoom. They produced amazing stuff. Of course, they're living in a pressure cooker. And so they said, we want to have a summer institute in Lviv. Will you come? And I said, yes, with pleasure. So we'll see what things, so the end of June, I should be going. But, you know, poetry right now in Ukraine it's amazing. I think Stephen, who's been back and forth to Ukraine a few times since the war started, could probably tell us more. But there are readings in public squares. The people who are soldiers are also poets. Some were poets before they went to serve, and others became poets. So it's really an important time for poetry there.
There's a wonderful movie, American movie called Porcelain Wars.
Okay.
It's about these two artists who do these beautiful little miniature porcelain and paint them and take them to different places. And he's in the army training other soldiers, and he's just a farmer.
Wow. Wow.
Porcelain Wars.
And I think, you know, these kinds of stories are so important, and your stories are so important because, you know, human beings, we always told each other stories. That's how we passed along our history. And I think about Alan Lomax. You know, the Lomax father and son were these musicologists, American musicologists who traveled to prisons and traveled all through the Delta to kind of save the authentic music of the Delta, of the Appalachians. And I think it was the father, Alan, who said that, you know, his fear about popular music, which was just happening, he said was that it would be amplified by this great machine to the point that it would drown out all other voices. And I think that's kind of something that we're struggling against, that because mass culture can be so amplified that it can sort of drown out the human, really, and the personal. So I think it's, you know, to keep hearing these stories and telling those stories is, you know, is wonderful. And everything that's happened in my life has happened because of poetry. Poetry. I've just gone where it's taken me, you know, even if I have to, like, invent. So, any other questions for me or even for Age? Yes.
You were working with criminals or
I worked in Patton State Mental Hospital in Los Angeles. It was a prison for the criminally insane. I was still quite young when I did that. If I didn't have if I were older, I might have said no. But it was a really important experience for me to have.
Were you doing it as for therapy for that?
Yeah, but also just, you know, arts programming, like you know, there's so much, like, we Americans, there's this whole other reality in our prison system that people don't know about. Like, do you know that prison in El Salvador, where they sent the deportees, they're forbidden to read or write? And this is kind of an old style punishment, to be forbidden to read or write. I had a cousin, he's gone now, did a lot of time in prison. He said they'd throw him into solitaire and he'd look around and say, I can get out of here, and he'd open a book. Okay, so there's a lot that's important to understand about what goes on in our carceral system and systems all over the world. But I guess that's being reintroduced as a punishment, to not be able to read and write. But I was doing this program in the 90s, so it was a time when, like, the State Arts Council I actually auditioned for the job. The State Arts Council funded it, and it was great. They had somebody in there doing dance, somebody doing theater, and at the end of whatever it was, a 3-month program, we all did a collaborative kind of performance with the poetry, the dance, the music. It was great. Was it scary? Yes. The guards were scary. The people weren't scary. The guards were scary. And the system was scary. Once I was in with the people, I was okay.
How has
Yeah.
it changed you? How has it changed you?
I don't know. I don't know, because everything changes us. Everything that touches us changes us, and everyone we meet. And then, you know, my father did 5 years state time, hard time, before I was born. And various relatives have done time. So it's, I just feel like I need to be emotionally informed about that experience. So I could read about it, but having kind of gone in, I got to be emotionally informed about it. Nancy had a question?
Although I no longer live in the United States, I decided I wanted to go back and open a bookstore called Banned Books, and that's all I'd sell.
Yeah, books that had been banned.
How are you going to do that?
She doesn't know, but just watch. She might do it. You know, and small bookstores are flourishing again.
Yeah.
Libraries in the U.S. have sections with banned books.
Pardon me?
Libraries in the U.S. now
Have sections with
sections entitled banned books.
Yeah.
Bookstores have sections.
Are they allowed to do that? Because,
Well, so far.
okay.
It's a free country. It's capitalism. Whatever people buy, but it's important, you know. And for me, it's like it's important to continue to buy books, to support publishing, which is, you know, because a physical book, I read on my phone a lot too. I read on the computer a lot too. But there's nothing like the physical sensation for me of opening a book. Because you're opening something. And it's such a huge, I don't know, it's just such a comfort for me to open a book. And, you know, there was a time, I don't know, 10 years ago, they said, oh, books are going to become obsolete. And I was like, oh, no. And I did try to clean out my shelves and give a lot of books away and donate them. And it was at that time hard. Nobody wanted to accept donations of books because everybody was sure books were disappearing. But then they didn't. And I bought more books. So, you know. But, yeah, it's important, I think, to support the arts. A friend and I were in Poland, and she said, oh, there's some jazz, you know, live jazz. It costs this much money. I said, I'm all for it. If I can pay for live music, you know, especially in a smaller place, you know, that's important. How many gigs do musicians have nowadays? Everybody uses recorded music. So if I can support a writer, an artist, musicians, that's a form of resistance just against the encroachment of technology and the colonization of our creativity and our imagination. You know, those are things we can do every day. And also to make a place for your own creativity in your life. We're born with it. We're born with it. You'd have to hit me over the head to convince me otherwise. I worked with 5-year-olds. We're born with it. We shut it down, or we let it be shut down. But it's your birthright. Creativity is a birthright. We all have it. Exercise it. You don't have to share it with the world if you don't want to, but it's yours. And that also is an act of defiance. To do creative work, paper and pen with a paintbrush, with a guitar, that's defiant. Okay, that's me on my soapbox. Should I get off now? The funding, yeah. Funding being cut, yeah, we need to support. Thank you, and thank you, Adrian. Mwah.
I mean, didn't it change your idea of poetry?
Yes. Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank
sweetheart.
you. It's always a pleasure. Great people.